Sit down, shut up, and pay attention.
Damn!
This is the Rants of Izzo Show with your host, Dominic Izzo, from porn to politics. We touch every third rail we can find. You might want to put your headphones on so your mom can't hear this. It's been called the most entertaining 60 minutes on the internet, and it starts now. Let's do this.
All right, welcome to the Rants of Izzo Show. This is the Conversations. It's different than the normal show and podcast, which we do live Monday through Friday, right? If you're a fan of the show, you know that we're live Monday through Friday, Spreely.com, rantsofizzo.com. We're a stream of consciousness show that covers everything from politics to porn is the tagline. If you're offended by what we do, is what it is. But the conversations are where I bring on guests I think have tremendous value in multiple different areas and spaces. Could be health and wellness, could be business, could be fitness, could be faith. It really doesn't matter what it is. And there are people that I think, man, I'm blessed to have a connection, and other people need some exposure to them as well too. So Joshua Denne is joining me today, which this has been a long time. I want to say a good year. We've tried to schedule a podcast. So I really want to thank you for taking the time out to join today. How are you?
Doing outstanding, Dominic, and been watching you for quite some time. A lot of respect for what you're doing, especially your stance. Just that you say it how it is, at least how you believe it to be. So I really respect that part about you, and I've been enjoying watching, your show.
I was surprised years ago. It's been about 2 years. You connected with me and you reached out to me, and I was surprised and impressed. Number one, I want you to give people kind of like the 360 degree view of who Joshua Denne is. But when I looked at you and I saw, like, the first thing, right? Oh my God, this guy's got how many millions of social media followers? Saw what you did, who you are. You just connected to say hi, and you extended an appreciation for what I did. We have been communicating off and on behind the scenes for a better part of 2 years. Never once have you ever tried to pitch me on anything, sell me on anything, recruit me on anything. You've just been a literal stand-up guy who's become a friend, a mentor in many ways, and just a real damn genuine person. So everybody needs to know that up front. So who is Joshua Denne, or Denne? Excuse me. Give me the 360 degree view of who you are, and everyone needs to know this.
Well, I guess to know me a little bit, I like a lot of people, kind of had an interesting time growing up. My mom did the best she could, love her, worked 3 jobs. My dad decided he had some other places to be when I was about 5, and my brother and I, were doing the best we could as young boys, kind of learning to not be with my mom because she's working 3 jobs. She didn't want to have government assistance. And my stepdad came in, just didn't know how to deal with 2 boys. So I was out of the house by 14 and got in trouble, kind of went down the wrong road for a long ways. Got introduced to network marketing, Dominic. That's one of the things that caught my attention about you, because what a fantastic industry that is, because it introduced me to 2 things that I previously didn't even know existed. One was personal development, personal growth, the books to read, the seminars to go to, all about associations. And then, of course, mentorship, actual people who are willing to help. One of the greatest things I love about the network marketing profession is that you find a guy like yourself, Dominic, that has already been there, done that, and is willing to teach someone to succeed. And truly, if you're going to be successful in the space, you have to help other people. You have to help other people win and exceed. And much like martial arts, I know you're in Wing Chun, you've done incredible, which is also something I admire and respect. Like martial arts, to become a grandmaster, to get to the top of the game, you have to have people excel you. And it's the same thing in network marketing. And a lot of people don't understand that, but that's the truth. In order for you to succeed in network marketing, you have to help other people pass you and excel you. And so when I learned that, and I got mentorship from people who are compensated, not by me, I didn't have to go pay them in like coaching. And I don't get me wrong, Dominic, I like coaching. I think there's a place for that. But in the network marketing profession, what's great about it is you can get a coach that would normally cost somebody, or what the marketplace charges today, 10, 20, 30,000 a month. You can get for no charge at all, just for your willingness to participate into the program. And I was fortunate. I got some great mentors. And in a number of years, it radically changed my life. And since then, I've learned a lot about human interaction, studied a lot of psychology, been able to travel all over the world, meet people from all different types of cultures. And the thing that I've realized is most of us, regardless if we're in China, Russia, which I know people don't like those countries, but the people are awesome. The governments kind of suck, but the people are amazing. Whether it's Dubai or Japan, South America, Central America, Europe, people are awesome. We all kind of want the same thing, right? We want a quality of life with our family. We want to be able to do things with them. We want to share time with those that we love. We want to hopefully help them become better. We want to bring value to the community. And last but not least, I'll say one of the greatest lessons I've learned in life is in any scenario, if you bring more value to the situation than you subtract, you'll always be welcome, and success or doors to success, I should say, will open for you. So that's, I guess, my philosophy and my background in a nutshell.
Well, one of the things that, like I said, when I first started, when I noted, when you messaged me and I had to look you up, I'm like, you couldn't tell what you did. You just saw that you were larger than life, and you had such a positive outward expression through your content, pictures, videos. It's just your energy is really great. And it took me a while to have you tell me that you were also involved with network marketing. I'm like, wait a second. So many people, especially when they find out my personality, try to recruit me. They want to correct what I'm doing, all this stuff. It wasn't until I took a real hard stance, and for those who don't know, I'm very heavily involved in the network marketing industry. I got involved with it 12 years ago, was extremely embarrassed of it because it's the pyramid scam, and I did it like everyone else did. And then I got a little bit nervous because I listened to a guy from India who was like a math genius and a fiduciary, and he had said that Americans are going to need to learn to reinvent how they do business in the next 5 years, because you're going to get things like AI taking over. You're already seeing the kiosks in McDonald's eliminate jobs. So I went, shit, what are my skills? Being a cop? Well, I'm not that anymore. Martial arts doesn't pay the bills. It's a passion. I'm too old for a labor job, and I have no college education. So when I graduated high school by the skin of my teeth, and I said, I'm going to go back to network marketing. When I got in it, I watched an interview by Tillman Ferlita, who said, if you're going to do something, be the bull at what you do. If you're going to be a janitor, be the best janitor out there. So I said, that's it. I have to act as if, and I'm going to become the bull of MLM. And I rebranded myself, and I went very aggressive into recruiting, and that started to get other people who wanted me for their team and whatnot. But us three people, I'll say this, Ray Higdon is one. We haven't had as many conversations, but the two people who befriended me and never talked about business were you and Jesse Lee Ward. And Jesse Lee,
love Jesse.
Yeah,
love Jesse. What a gem of a human being, huh?
Dude, yeah, and both of you. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with her. Not a single one. Outside of complaining about the anti-MLM community, was ever about business. It was always, she did talk about politics very briefly, behind the scenes. She was such a great human being. You're in the same category. So I guess I'm going to ask you, why did you never try to recruit me? You befriended me. Here's what you never did. And this is how I base who gets my respect and attention. Many years ago, I met a friend of mine who's a Christian, and he had the same background I was. Former Catholic, and then went into Christian, and he's Italian too. The guy was my friend for 3-4 years. And it wasn't until I had said, hey, tell me more about the difference between being a Catholic and a Christian, that he opened up. And he'd been waiting for that the entire time, but never pressed it, never brought it up, never did anything, X, Y, and Z. That gets me to be like, okay, now this guy's a mentor of mine. You're the same thing. You never sat there and hey, can I offer you any criticism? Or hey, can I talk to you about this? You never tried to offer or correct or any. You never slid in my DMs to say, have you thought about doing it this way? You literally would just, talk about guy stuff is what we do. We talk about business in a general sense. We talk about politics. Why why would you befriend me of all people and not try to sell me and all that? What was your method or your concept for that? Because it just seems like you're a real, genuine human being, and you're not a bullshit salesman that gives our industry a bad name.
Well, first off, appreciate that. Thank you kindly for the compliments. I would say there's a number of reasons. One, over the last few years, I haven't really been super fired up about any one particular deal. I've moved into, more of, I'd say private equity and doing things with my money that don't include recruiting or doing things. That's one aspect of it. Although I have a variety of opportunities at my fingertips, one of the things is when I see someone passionate about what they're doing, it's counterproductive in many ways, I believe, to try to recruit them, because I'm a big fan of the profession in general. I think that, here's one of the things that bothers me about the space. A lot of things bother me, but this one in particular, where people think, hey, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to success but by me, or but by my deal, or but what I'm doing. And I think that's absolute garbage, because there's a lot of great deals. It's different for different people. But when I see someone passionate like you are about what you're doing, man, I just want to fan that flame. If I can find a way to help guide someone to a leader like yourself, that benefits not only you, but it benefits the person that I'm bringing into the scenario. So I've just found that to be much more beneficial. And I'll say in a microcosm, like as a networker, you'll appreciate this. Sometimes in our own companies, right, you've got people who try to cross recruit or get someone out of one team to another. And I think that's so counterproductive. I think I think it's unethical in a lot of ways, but it's counterproductive, because the goal should be to help the person. Truly, one of the things that I fell in love with about network marketing was it was, to me, a way for the average person who didn't come from wealth, who maybe didn't have the right upbringing or didn't have the right mentors in their life, to be able to get into an environment like that, where they could get access to mentorship and they could genuinely succeed. They have a good product, a good service, something that they can believe in, something that's authentic, or with just some hard work and effort, they can elevate themselves and do well. And I think that's great when someone's passionate about that and they're moving in that direction. I think our job should be, especially if we're mature in the space, is to encourage that. I'll tell you, I don't know if you've ever met a Lisa Grossman.
No, I've not.
But Lisa was one of Jesse Lee's mentors, if not definitely her most recent mentor, but someone who helped her in the company she was with. And Lisa was that way for me. Like, she could have recruited me to half a dozen different deals, but and she probably would have if I was open at the time. But at the time she met me, I was fully passionate about the deal I was doing. And she's like, "You're in love, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm in love." She's like, and all she does is add value to my life, which made me which again made her a mentor to me, made me respect her. So I think there's a lot to bringing real value to someone without the need to get something in return. I think there is a truth to what you put out comes back to you, and not to put it out because it does. It's just what happens. I think it's just the way this construct is set up. I think that's the way God put it together. At least that's what I've found out, at least my observation, 46 years on the planet so far.
Well, one of your best attributes is when you look at so many, because social media went on this uptick where all you have to do is put out, your dance reel or point at bubbles, and these words will pop up in the air, and this is my lifestyle, and that's all you got to do to wind up, making your money, to having people that they rent the Lamborghinis, they'll get the fake $100 bills and fan them out, and this is my lifestyle. The thing about you is you do not have, and I don't know how to describe it other than it's genuine, right? If you look at your content, you're well put together. You are not flashy. You do not flash your wealth. You do not showcase it. You are just very well put together. You are very what's the damn word I want to look for? You're professional in this industry. It doesn't matter if we're talking about network marketing, we're talking about crypto, we're talking about anything. What has social media done, good and bad, for the sales industry or the business industry in the last several years? That does it drive you nuts, or how are you embracing it? What are your thoughts?
That's a great question. And I don't know if I'm embracing it. I've kind of ignored it for a long time because I remember seeing a lot of people that did embrace it. And you're right. There's some truth to people pretending, right? The whole act as if, but like really not where they were, but they're pretending to be. But then eventually they got there. And I still don't agree with that philosophy. I don't think people need to do that. I don't think you need to lie to succeed. I think that kind of subtracts or erodes a person's character. At least that's been my observation. So I think if I'm going to go good and bad, I would say and I'll come to the good for a second, but the bad is that some people can succeed very rapidly without having to cultivate the character that will help you maintain that wealth over the long haul, will help you actually grow into the man or the woman that you need to become in order to wield that power. A lot of times people think, well, if I just have the money, if I could just get X, whatever X is for you, whatever that amount is, if I could get to that place, everything will be good. And that's not necessarily true at all, because money can be like a razor blade, in the hands of a baby or a toddler, not so good, in the hands of a skilled surgeon, way better. It's a tool, but how you handle that tool depends upon your character and who you become in the process. I'm sure you've heard of Jim Rohn. Mm-hmm. I love Jim Rohn. I had the great fortune of sharing some time with Jim Rohn and meeting with him and having several meals with the man. And he said, it's not what you get that's the value in life, but who you become in the process, that's the value. And I believe that to be true, Dominic, that, who you become by actually cultivating that skill. And I think the bad part of it is social media shortcuts that, and people get lucky a lot faster. I think people have always gotten lucky in the space in some sense. Maybe they get, a Dominic Izzo in their downline, or get fortunate to have someone in their upline who's a quality leader that helps them a lot. There's luck to that in some sense, but it short circuits that. And sometimes when we make a lot of money and we don't know how we really did it, it can be harmful. I've seen that happen many, many, many times in my career. So it short circuits it. I think it's hard to decipher truth from fiction in a lot of ways. And so in a lot of ways, people can get misguided. And I think there's a huge responsibility in offering a biz op and offering an opportunity to someone, because if you're saying, hey, look, let me help you. Let me show you the way. I found something that's successful. Let me show you the ABCs or the 1, 2, 3s, but you don't really have it. It's just fiction. And all it really is to take someone's money in. Well, you really hurt somebody in that way. And I don't think, obviously that's not good, but it hurts the person who's doing it more in a lot of ways. So that's a bad thing, short circuit. Where it's good is you can reach many more people much faster. So I think there's a lot of good in it, because if you use it effectively, like I think you're doing, obviously you've cultivated your skill set over, your lifetime, as an officer, as a martial artist, and now as an entrepreneur, as a networker, where you can truly use your platform right now to inspire other people, but to truly guide them in a proper direction that will ultimately help them and benefit them. So I think those are the pros and cons, short circuit. And then of course, your reach is much more magnified and powerful.
I think what we're at right now today doing this podcast is a blatant example of how correct you are with the doing for others and making sure that their well-being is taken care of. So here's what you didn't do. You didn't slide in my DMs and try once a week to wind up pitching and closing me. But what you did do is you offered friendship, and it was my choice to have you as a mentor based on how you just kept offering to help me, whatever I needed. So I went, this guy is clearly a direction I want to go to. He's a mentor. The more you made sure I was okay, now it had me hunting for you for your time for a podcast. So I think what you just said, it's proof. When you take care of others, those of us who are taken care of by you, now we want you involved in our stuff. So it doesn't matter what we do. We're asking you, hey, can we get your time? So it's people don't see that the more you wind up serving others, they're going to wind up now, like it disarms them. It sees the genuine nature of what you're doing. The energy is just so addicting. You're like, man, I got to be around this. So I think you and your style is proof of what you just advocated for. I wanted to stay on our business for a little bit, or at least my business and where you came from. You were one of the most successful in the industry, 7-figure earner, highlighted speaker. You have never, to my knowledge, been featured in any anti-MLM content. You may now after they see me doing a podcast with you. So people are now going to market you even more on that. Any advertising, good advertising. What did you see, or did you have any evolution of a mindset in this industry from the first day you got in to where you hit your status? Did you evolve in any way? Were there things you liked in the industry, things you didn't like in the industry? The reason being I'm asking is the second I changed from like wearing jeans and t-shirts and then actually taking myself seriously again and wearing a uniform, which was shirt and tie and suit. The second I said, man, this business to me is nothing more than sales and recruiting and teaching people how to sell and recruit. And I am the greatest salesperson in the world because my job was to talk people into handcuffs and have them think that it was a great idea. So I already have an aspect at sales. When I stopped looking at this as it's a social media goof and you just got to do dancing and this and that, and I started looking at it as, no, this is a very serious, legitimate business. Everything changed for me. Did you do like we did in the beginning and screw things up, and did you have any personal epiphanies, and how did you build your success? What were the keys?
Oh my God, so many. I think everyone starts off in a similar space, and that they just have a desire. Most of us, right? We get started. When we see it, we're like, oh my God, there is actually a way to win. Like you, well, I didn't graduate high school. I ended up getting my GED later, but I didn't graduate. I didn't think I could be successful, right? In business, at least. And when I saw people dressing well and they said, look, dress the part, dress better. And, I hear a lot of flack about people wearing suits or wearing nice things. And I got to tell you, it does make a difference. If anything in your own personality, you feel better. And if you feel better, then you typically do better and you present yourself better. So first was image, making sure that I'm learning that proper hygiene, looking clean, looking the best you can. It doesn't mean go and spend money on a suit that you can't afford, but do the best you can. Okay. Make sure your clothes are clean, iron them, look good, look the best you can. That was one. But two, I can tell you, in the beginning, I just wanted to make money. I think like a lot of people. And where it changed for me, Dominic, is when I started shifting and thinking about other people. And let me give you the example that I learned. I was, I was trying to figure this business out. I'd quit my job too early. I went to one of these conventions and I thought for sure I'm going to be a millionaire like the next week. I was all pumped up and fired up. I worked in this machine shop. I cleaned floors for like $9 an hour. And I was on the 91 freeway in California heading to Santa Ana. And, my boss had already given me a bunch of grief and I'm in this crazy traffic. And I said, you know what? It was this maybe like a week after this convention I was all fired up at. I called and I said, look, I'm not coming back. And I turned around at Green River Road, headed back to my home in Riverside at the time. And that was it. I quit my job. And my mentor at the time, or my sponsor, said he was making like 10 grand a month. And back then, to me, 10 grand a month was like astronaut money. I'm like, people make that legally? Holy God, I'm in, let me go. And of course, I was the first person on his team to ever quit my job, and he wasn't making 10 grand a month. So he ghosted me for like 3 months, So I had to figure it out. And it took me a while. That's a long story. I won't get into it, but I will say after about 8-9 months of showing up and following one of my mentors, Ben Kane, who had changed my life, he said, Josh, you just, number one, show up. Be the first to arrive, the last to leave. We had meetings back in those like physical meetings. So we'd show up and I showed up and I started finally working the business. I finally started learning how to recruit, but I was still, I just wanted to make the commission. I wanted to make the money. And I met this one kid, Dominic, named Eric Zimmerman. He was 19 years old at the time. He worked at Mimi's Cafe as a waiter, and he was the man of the house. His dad had left, and he took care of his younger sibling and his mom. And his mom had a nervous breakdown; she couldn't work, and so this kid worked like full time, 2 jobs, going to school, putting himself through school. And I take him to the meeting, right? And we're sitting there, and he sees it, and I'm at 610 Newport Center Drive. That's where the meeting was, at this building. And we're out in the parking lot right after the event. And it was $249, right, to sign up for this company at that time. And he writes the check and he hands it to me with kind of tears in his eyes. And he's like, hey, this is going to work, right? Because it was all the money that kid had. And I knew it. And he was making a bet. And I took the check. I'm like, of course it's going to work, And I look over at the check, and in the memo section, there was one word written. And the word was freedom. And dude, it hit me so hard because I knew what that meant to him. And I thought at that time, like, forget about me. I needed money like oxygen, man. I quit my job. My house is in foreclosure. I'm going through hell. But I'm like, you know what? At this point, I'm going to make sure this kid gets his money back. And it shifted in my head from me making commission to I need to help this guy. I need to do it. And so I got in the trenches with him, and I made the list with him, and I started doing the actions. Not like I did before, Dominic, where I'm like, all right, sign someone up. All right, go get him, Tiger. Figure it out. Here's the list. Here's the thing. Go. No, man, not this time. I got in the trenches with him. We locked arms and we worked together. And that became one of the largest organizations. And it changed everything for me. I mean, there's lots of those, but that was one of the big ones. It's like taking the responsibility when I bring someone in and I sponsor them, not hoping that they go make me rich. No, it's my responsibility. Now, again, there's a caveat. I'm not going to drag him to the finish line. He was willing to do it, but we did it together.
I had always thought we have this industry backwards. Number one, I wish to God to some degree that it was like $5,000 to join the business, because you'd filter out so many people who couldn't do it. And it just made it. I had a conversation with my uplines years ago. Hey, listen, this is my business model for my team. Instead of, because I can recruit a ton of people, but we know what happens, right? You lose time because you don't have time to teach them all. Even if you do like a Zoom training, they don't show up, they don't get it. Sometimes, well, most of the time, we have the gift of gabs. We have sales personalities. It's easier for us to sell. So like any other skill out there, why aren't we doing 4 until they either pick it up or they decide, I'm not a salesperson like you. Meaning I asked my upline, I'm like, what is wrong with me selling for my downline? Well, they don't learn the appreciation over it, and they're not, they don't pick it up. And I said, I understand that, but I want to hold their hand. Literally, you recruit one person instead of recruiting 10 people a month. You recruit one person that month, and you spend the entire month with them, making sure they know like you never leave them. It sounds like that was your mentality, and it worked.
Works every time. I mean, I've done this. I've done 4 organizations, 3 of which into the hundreds of thousands. I'm not trying to, it works. It's something. So here's my philosophy, right? I believe in everyone, but I count on no one. So if I look at my network marketing philosophy, it's very simple. Number one, my goal is, to be the number one influencer in someone's life. How do I do that? I'm positive. I'm consistent. I do what I say, right? Now I can mess that up, but when I do, I own it as best I can, right? So that's number one. Number two, I want to know that I believe in everyone. I count on no one. And what does that look like? Sometimes we sign somebody up, or someone says, "Hey, watch my smoke, Dominic. I'm going to go to the top. I'm going to do this." We're like, "Awesome, go! That's great." And then we start spending the money, right? The commission that we're going to make when they do what they say they're going to do, and they don't do it. So I believe in everyone, but I don't count on them. And what that means is my job is to meet everyone that they know as fast as possible. That's my goal, right? I'm going to get to know them, and I'm going to meet as many humans as I can through them, and I'm going to repeat the process. I'm going to do the same and do the same. I'm going to keep doing that. It's called like tap rooting or digging through an organization or digging through a network. It's relationship marketing. I'm marketing through the relationships. Now, as a good leader or someone who wants to replicate themselves, because I think there's two things. You could be important and be the one always, or you can get good at replicating what you're doing. And so what I'm always trying to do is find someone who's willing to run with me. I'm not going to wait for them. I believe in them. I'm just not going to count on them. I'm going to try to do my best to take them with me, have them be on my phone calls, have them be on the Zooms, so they can get the language pattern down, understand what I'm saying and how I'm saying it, and then what I'm doing next. And of course, it's been typically 1 out of 10 that will follow my pattern. Right. And then once it gets going, some of them get way better than me, and they're more gifted at speaking. They're more charismatic or whatever. And they start running. I slowly back myself out, and I do it again and do it again and do it again. And so my goal is to help that person do it. But in the beginning, it was I just really wanted to help them no matter what. Now it's like, not everyone's going to do it for whatever reason. Right. And you know this just in practice, like not everyone's going to go all the way. And that's okay. I don't need them to. I'm going to love them all the same, but I'm going to run with the runners. I'm going to walk with the walkers, but I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to keep finding out who they know and rinsing the process to find the people that ultimately want it the way I want it and are willing to do what I'm willing to do to get to where we both want to go.
It's so damn awesome seeing somebody who understands, like, you don't build a building like you wait for, I don't know, the concrete. No, the concrete's not dry yet. Stack the bricks. It's like, it could take you a good 3, 4, 5, 6 a year to wind up working with somebody and getting them where they need to go. I want to talk about the energy you put out. You're putting out a lot of energy for people. You're giving. What's Josh like behind the scenes in this world? How do you recharge your batteries? How do you stay passionate? How do you stay driven? How do you stay? We live in a real shitty world. People come in, they screw you over, they backstab, they talk shit about you when you left. Doesn't matter. You could have poured a year's worth of your time into somebody. Somebody walk away, says, "Oh, Josh, he scammed me in that pyramid thing." How do you maintain you as a human being and fuel yourself when you know most people are going to take from you and they're not going to give from you? How do you stay on top of that?
I'm not doing it to get a return from them, right? And I know that sounds maybe cliche, but I'm honestly not. Now, it doesn't mean I don't get disappointed when I really invest in someone heavily and they either betray me or stab me in the back or completely disappear, and that happens. And there's not really much you can do about it. It's like, it is what it is. It's like, at the end of the day, I have to look at myself. Like, what did I do to cause that, if anything? And how do I get better? Because, and you know this, right, brother? Like, the only human being I can change is me. I can't change you. I can't change, my family members. I can't change my friends. The only human being I have control over is me. The only two things I can control in this entire construct is, right, my attitude and my behavior. Those are the two things I for sure can control. So it's not what happens, it's how I respond to what happens that ultimately determines my direction in life. And you could get punched hard, you could get hurt, you could be, and people get damaged. I mean, I don't want to take that away from anyone. I know some people have gone through some freaking hell. Like, I'm sure some of you listening to this, you're like, Josh, if you only knew what I went through. I couldn't imagine. I'm sure it was crazy, but here's what I do know about the human spirit and the way God made us is you have the ability to change it, because you can change your attitude. I've seen people, and I've met them with my life, who've been molested and been tortured, been harmed horribly. That are some of the most amazing giving people I've ever met in my life, because they decided to change. They decided to focus on what they could change. They can't erase the past. That's there. And they can decide to go towards the future in a better direction. They can see what's positive and use their story. It's like, I heard this sermon a while ago. Your mess can be your message. All the things that happen to you in life can serve. And I do know this, and you ask me what keeps me going. I know there's good people. I believe there's more good people than bad people. I know there's some interesting people out there. There's some malevolent people that you and I probably wish didn't exist, but they do. And so, like, I'm not going to go chase that. And I think a lot of the people that hurt us, I don't think they do it malevolently or they do it in a vindictive, insidious way. I think they're just insecure and they made a mistake. And, I got to forgive them, because you know what? I made plenty of mistakes myself and I'm making them make more. So who am I to judge? Who am I to judge them? I've made enough in my life. All I can do is focus on, all right, what can I do good today? Honestly, that makes me feel good. How can I help someone else? Because I do know this for a fact. The more value you bring to a scenario, when you truly bring value into a situation, you get more than you give. And I'll close this little section with this, Dominic. One of my first mentors, a guy named Paul J. Meyer, right? It was very, very wealthy guy, amazing human. You may want to look him up. Paul J. Meyer. He's one of the godfathers of personal growth and development. He had this coined phrase that says, the more I give, the more I get. And at 25 years old, I had the opportunity to spend a few days with him in Waco, Texas. And he showed me he was making like $1 million a day net profit back then. This is 2004, 2005. And he's like, Josh, and he's like 78. He had a full-time staff giving his money away. And he's like, I can't give it away fast enough, Josh. The more you give, the more you get. And I've found that to be true in life. It's not just some saying. It's not some just, oh yeah, you're just trying. It's like, I just know it's real. I know that the more I genuinely give, the more I get. And the more I pull back and I'm stingy on some stuff because I get scared, the less I have. And that's been my experience.
Is there any benefit to the harder side of business? We see this big influx lately of social media influencers who, and I'm only picking up their names for people, for examples like Wes Watson, who came out of prison, drops the F-bomb every other word. Andy Elliott's a new one who was in car sales, and he's very hard. I like Andy Elliott's content. A lot of people disagree with his tactics. The reason I like his content is because he's teaching people to embrace the sales industry, and it's not an industry for everybody else. It is not. You're not going to be liked by everybody. You're going to be despised by a lot of people. There's a lot of confidence that needs to be held in there. But with all these guys that are coming up now, and their social media is explosive, and it's very hard. Harsh language, harsh reality, egoism, sexism, this and that. I don't think that they're creating good product, meaning people. The people who could duplicate what they're doing as their product. I really don't think that they're duplicating. I think they're selling themselves and they're marketing themselves great. I see you as a almost like a Jordan Belfort, who Jordan is. He doesn't need to brag about his ego. He knows his ability. He's one of the greatest sales trainers on the planet. Softer spoken now, at least. Now, I'm sure not back in the 80s and 90s, but you don't have that in your face intensity. Your energy is it's overwhelmingly calm and euphoric and just really positive. These guys are intense. Are we going about it the wrong way with that, or has there just been such a massive lack of masculinity over the last several years that maybe we need that a little bit? What is America's fascination with this style of intense, in-your-face, hard-close business that seems to be taking over the internet?
Yeah, that's a good question. Everyone has their own style. I think everyone gravitates to what is appealing to them. I think, to answer your question more directly, what's probably fueling that is there's not been a lot of true masculine roles, like true men teaching. I don't think that's in general in each family across the United States, but it seems to be that the family breakdown is happening, and young men, right, that are mainly their audience, are craving some type of direction. Like, tell me how it is, man. I'm sick of being, oh, it's okay, everything's you're just fine the way you are. Most people aren't fine the way they are. I'm not fine the way I am right now. Okay. I need to grow. You need to grow. And what these guys say, they'll just say it very harshly. And, that doesn't work for a guy like me. I don't think it works for you, but it works for some people. And, here's my only caveat to that. Be careful of worshiping any man. All of us are shitbags. Okay. Well, excuse my language. There's not one of us that's like, oh, they got it all put together. No, even Jordan Peterson, who I think really he's thought some stuff through. There's not one man I'd say is here. I'll shut up with this, because I look at and I aim towards Christ, and I know that's what people think, whatever they want to think. Look, I didn't read the Bible for the religion. I read it because I didn't want other people to tell me what was in it. And I'll say there's two things Christ said that made me want to follow that ideal, right? Was love God with all your heart. I don't even know what that means when I read it. Like, well, aim towards the best you could be. Like the 10 core the 10 commandments, right? Those aren't easy to do. Okay. Some of them may be others than others, but that's a high calling. That's a high aim. And the second one, which he says is just like it, is, love your neighbors yourself. I have a hard time with that, brother. Okay. I know there's some people I just don't like, man. Yeah. But what an aim, right? If you're aiming towards something, I know people screw that up. They mess that up in so many different ways. But it's not what it is. That's not what it was. That's not what it says. And so if I can keep my aim at that rather than a man, like one of the people that you named, look, maybe one person can help guide you to another and guide you to another and guide you to some kind of truth, guide you to something that will help you become the best version of you can be. But my recommendation is read the books. They're out there. Listen to the tapes, show up at as many events as you can, take the good, leave the bad, and aim towards a better ideal for you. And I think one day you'll wake up into an environment that at one point was just a dream.
I want to talk, because I'm going to ask you, I've never asked you this before. Let's talk about faith and money for a second. So I came from the Catholic Church. I'm firstborn son, Roman Italian Catholic. I don't practice the Catholic faith anymore, but I went to 8 years of Catholic grammar school and was taught, if you have a hangnail that day, means God's pissed at you. When it came down to money, it was, no, money's the root of all evil. I remember specifically going, trying to find mentors who were in the network marketing space who always leveraged faith. And I remember asking one guy, okay, I'm having a really hard time accepting that I could be wealthy because it's a massive guilt for it. And he goes, well, Jesus was rich. Pardon me? He had 12 servants following him everywhere. He had food anywhere he wants to go. I'm like, okay, I'm not dealing with this. It wasn't until I asked a friend of mine, Mike Moormeyer, I called him up one day and I'm like, dude, I'm struggling with being okay with having money. I don't understand. Is it okay if I make millions of dollars? And he goes, open your Bible. And I said, okay. He goes, go to Malachi 3:10. And Malachi 3:10 is the only place, I guess, in the Bible where God says, challenge me in this way. And he says, tithe. It says, if you give the full tithe, he'll take care of you. I have been tithing.
Your houses will overflow.
Right. Now, I understand that's not biblical. And I mean, monetarily wise, I understand that means that, it's not the ultimate goal. But I'm not kidding. It's not a joke at all. I have had zero financial problems since the day I started tithing almost 3 years ago. Every month, 10% of exactly what I make goes to where I put it in the church. What is your relationship with money? Did you ever have guilt? Did you feel ashamed to make money? How are those of us who are Christ followers, how do we come to terms with it's okay to be rich, wealthy, have money? How would you talk to somebody like me who literally I would get panic attacks with the concept of making a lot of money?
Well, I felt the same way when I was growing up, and also Irish Catholic, right? Went to, was confirmed. I ended up, I'm not Catholic anymore. I still love the faith, and my mom, God bless her heart, is beside herself. I don't want to go to mass, but I'd say that it's not money is the root of all evil, because that's a common misnomer. It's the love of money. So when we worship the money, when we put money at the head of our focus, that's where it becomes a problem, because now we become servant to the money rather than allowing the money to serve us. So I think it's your duty to be rich. I think it's your duty to be as wealthy as you can possibly be, not for the money, right? For what it makes of you to achieve that, one, but two, now you can give more, you can do more, you can provide more, if that's what you want to do. Joseph of Arimathea was a wealthy man who gave his burial site to Christ. Solomon, one of the wealthiest people in the history of the world, right? King David. I mean, the list goes on. Jesus talked more about money than any other subject. it's a responsibility, especially as a man. I can't speak as a woman because I'm not one. Mm-hmm. Okay. But as a man, it's your obligation to be as successful as you can be for your family, to provide. I think it's the mark of intelligent effort properly executed over a period of time. And it's like this. Capital to me is the derivative of well-executed sweat. Capital is the derivative of well-executed sweat. So you want to be able to learn a skill and focus that skill and produce with that skill. So gain value for that, and then learn how to wield that power, become financially literate. There's lots of ways to do it today. Again, another positive of the internet. There's so much information. Now you have to decipher through a lot, but that's part of the work. I think it's your obligation to be successful, period, as a man, but as a Christian or as a believer, embrace it, learn it, and look, give it all away if that's what you want. Because some people are like, well, it should go here, it should go there. And as you start to gain success and wealth, you'll realize that a lot of times giving money to people isn't the answer. In fact, I've found a lot of times it hurts people far more than it helps them.
You just answered my question in a way that I'd never even thought about before when you were talking about it. It's easy to be lazy, or it's easy to be poor. You look at all the attributes that are attached to being poor: sloth, laziness. When you're not in shape, you're just, and we know you're fat. When you don't work out, when you don't work for yourself, when you don't work, you're a different type of person. I know that at times where I am lazy, the mindset changes and you're open to just negative, really horribly influential energy, and criminality and poverty are associated. It takes the best status of yourself to be rich and wealthy. You literally have to work on it. You just answered the question in a new way for me, where it is almost your responsibility as a man to be rich, because the steps that it takes to get that means you have to be the best of you have to keep leveling up to get that. So
yes.
Yeah, you just answered that in a brand new way for me. That's massive. Where our world is set right now, I kind of want to go in this direction. We see that laziness is lack of interaction with people. Yeah, lack of responsibility and lack of interaction are huge, thanks to social media. Social media has created a platform where, I'm Joshua, I got 1 point whatever million followers. You do for other people actively. How much work do we have to undo to now everybody thinks that social media creates the me show, and you should clearly just support me, buy my product, get involved with me? How much people skills have we lost over these last several years? And is it your mission to kind of lead by example, to go back into serving others, can we get that pendulum swinging back the other way?
I think it's going to swing back one way or the other. It has to. It has to. And the people, for example, let me give you a customer service one, because that's about people and interaction. Like you said, you've noticed today that so many companies, you don't even have a phone number, and on their website, you can barely find a number. They're forcing you into chatbot, AI bots. And if you're like me, it just drives me nuts, man. I'm like, I want to talk to a human. I don't want to be in voicemail hell or go to some chat thing and wait. I want to talk to someone. And I think a lot of us are fed up with that. And so the companies that can embrace that, the companies that will allow that pendulum to swing, where they do customer care, they actually interact with people in a better way. Those skills, I think, are going to be incredibly valuable, and you're going to be able to monetize them in a huge way more than we once did, because it's a scarcity now. Right? It's the skill sets you've honed and cultivated in your life, Dominic. Those skills are super valuable, and they're going to be more and more necessary. And I'll say that in business in general, but in the network marketing space, what I've seen over the last decade is people moved into these money games and these quick mercenary type deals, or there's no real culture. And because of that, there's been a huge vacuum of leadership in the space. And I think the companies that are going to instill that moving forward are going to excel and do better than they've ever done. I think any major Fortune 500 or 100 company that embraces true human interaction, not just using the AI stuff. I think those are good tools to enhance things, but to truly go back to, look, let me, deal with human beings. Let me truly touch people and help people and fill that need. I think are going to excel in the future more than others, because it's what you want. It's what I want. Like when I'm dealing with a company and I'm talking to someone, they make me feel good. I want to do business with them, don't you?
Absolutely. I told you, you're a shining example of that. I'm chasing you for your time because you've given me so much more. So now it's like it's just the way that I look at it is I imitate and then innovate. So I try to find out what the best things from you are, and then I'm going to absorb them. I'm going to try to be more like you, and then I'm going to evolve into whoever that part of me is. I think there's so much value in that. What was it like when it hit you that you made it? After all the years or however much time it struggled. Do you remember when it was like when you went? Did you stop and take a breath and actually sit and go, "I made it. I'm okay"? What was that like?
Yeah, there was a couple of stages. I'd say one was I hit this one rank in a company, right? And I hadn't made it right at that point, but I remember because it was a goal that was so far off, and I had worked so very hard. And when I found out that had happened, I'd crossed that line, so to speak. I remember dropping to my knees and just thanking God and just like literally crying, because it was, I know it's maybe embarrassing to say, but I was, like a lot of people, I just didn't think I was good enough. And I don't know if you've ever felt that way, but success is for someone else. It's for that other guy. It's for that other girl. Well, he had this or she had that. And I didn't think it was for me. And, when I learned that, look, if you're willing to work on yourself enough, eventually you'll walk into the reality that you want. And I saw it, and I dropped down on my knees. That was one time. The second time when I finally, I'd accomplished, some pretty good financial wealth. I had the cars and the houses and the things, and, on the jets and whatnot, all the stuff you think, once I have these things, I'm rich. You're not really. But I felt like, wow, the things that I had on my dream board, right? And if you ever had a vision board or a dream board, you cut out pictures of the stuff. And when you're doing it, it feels like you're lying to yourself. You're like, I'll never have that. I'll never, I remember feeling that way. Like, that's not for me for sure. But I'm a patient on there. Everyone else is doing it. You look at it every day and you read your affirmations and you visualize it and you visualize it. And after a while, your brain starts to adapt to it. It's just, well, maybe that is for me. And you see enough other examples. I mean, goodness gracious, you certainly can see it on social media today. There's certain people that you're like, if that guy can make so, oh my God, it's probably possible for you, right? I started to feel that. And at one point I remember waking up and I'm like, I'm living the dream that I once had. And I think there's danger in that. There's danger in that. And here's why. Because if you're not constantly setting the marker further out, again, not for the acquisition of the thing, but so you can grow and be more. Because here's what I'll say that messed me up for a long time. Once I got to the point where I didn't necessarily have to work for money anymore, I got bored out of my mind. And I was sitting in my theater and I was just bored out of my mind. And I started to self-destruct. I've done this a couple of times, and what I found, which is far more valuable than the money or far more valuable than whatever level of success, whether it's some of you guys, you want the yachts and the jets and all that. Great. God bless you. If you really want that stuff and you're really willing to work that hard, you'll probably get there one day. But some of you don't, whatever it is, I can tell you without purpose, none of that means anything for any length of time. It may be exciting in the moment, you party with it, you do whatever, but after a time, it's just gonna not be what it was. And that's why you'll see people in Vegas, right, at the high roller table, just giving their money away. It's not about it, man. I wish I could instill that in you. And it's hard to even comprehend that until you get there. But I promise you, purpose, meaning, what you're aiming at, what you're moving towards is far more valuable than all the things you get along the way.
I can't tell you how right you are. I had to come to terms with, like, law enforcement was easy because I don't care who says what, it was such an ego feed, and I had to be okay with having an ego going, yeah, you helped somebody today. I don't care if it was you found their missing dog or, you arrested the guy that, destroyed X, Y, and Z. And these people were so happy, and it was an intangible, right? You helped them through an emotion. And when I got out of that and I got back into network marketing, I was like, I needed the tangible. Okay, so I want a 102-foot Bonetti yacht in the Florida Keys. And I would be like, well, you're going to be on it for a week and be like, okay, I'm bored. But I needed a tangible because I no longer had that high spike of the emotional connection because it's just different. So now I had to kind of find the middle ground of saying, for me, the passion is teaching somebody how to make an extra car payment a month with their business so that I know that stress that they could sleep a little bit better about at night. That is, I have to help on that. You're right about the purpose. It was very hard for me to try to understand, like, what's your purpose? Because the badge gave me a purpose before. When I had to become myself again, I'm like, I don't know how to define this. What do I do? I love this. I could talk to you all day about this. I want to talk about some like, if you ran the world, and let's kind of narrow this down to business and what you see online, in the categories of what you do, how would you change, online business? Because we're there now. It's not going to go anywhere. You are clearly a servant of the people, and you're clearly on a space which is social media, and brick and mortars are they're disappearing. We're always going to be online. If you could set the standard for how business on anything should be done, what would Josh do to leave his mark for service as we go into the next 10, 20 years?
Well, first off, thank God I don't run the world. I just make too many damn mistakes, man. It's hard to say, man. The older I get, brother, the more I realize I just don't know. I've been so certain about some things in my life, and then as I get older, I'm like, I don't know if that was the right move or not. I don't know if I want to reorder anything, but what I would say, at least business wise, I think politically I could go in a whole different direction, but business wise, I think that if people were to get back to cultivating character, here's a gift I'll give any of your listeners. You probably listen to this, but if you haven't, there's an audio book by Jim Rohn called Cultivating an Unshakable Character. One of my favorite audios of all time. It is so incredibly well done that it revolutionized a lot of the way I thought about business and success. And it's more about the character you cultivate in your life. And business is a tool for that. That's how I see business. Business is a tool to help you elevate as a man, to help you elevate as a person, to help you become more. And yeah, I agree. It's good to have tangible, maybe materialistic goals to aim at, because it's a measurement of your forward motion, at least from a monetary sense. But the real joy is in the doing, and the real prize is the person you become. That's what's valuable. That's what your kids are going to remember. That's what your friends are going to talk about how much money you made. They're not going to give a bleep. Your kids aren't either, right? They're going to care about who you were, what you stood for, what you did, and look, I'm preaching right now because, man, I'm messed up 1,000 different ways. I'm by no means a role model in a lot of senses. And maybe some senses I've learned some stuff, and God's been good to me, and I'm blessed, and I'm grateful for that. But Dominic, I think that if we can just come back to a place of, look, let's become better. Let's work. And Jim Rohn said it best. He's like, look, I'll work on me for you. Please work on you for me, because I can't work on you. I can't work on the world. God, have you heard this story? I think it was a Chicken Soup for the Soul story. It was about a young guy, like we were when we were younger, and set out to change the world. He's like, I'm going to change the world. I don't like this and I don't like that. Man, I'm going to make it better. And he went off, and by the time he got to his 40s, he's beat up. He's like, oh my God, you know what? I'm just going to change my state. My state screwed up. Forget the world. Maybe I'll just do my country, my state. I'm going to work on that. And now he's in his 60s and holy God, I didn't realize it was that tough. I'm just going to work on my town. Let me just work on my town, my little city that I live in. I'm going to make that better. And then on his deathbed, he realizes he didn't affect really much of that. And it dawned on him. He's like, he's like, towards the end of his life, he's like, I probably should just make my family better. But by that time, they're not listening to him. And he's finally at his deathbed. And it dawns on him that, if I just had worked on me, if I'd have just made me better, maybe that would have affected my family. And maybe that would have affected my city, which would have affected my state, my country, and then ultimately the world. So I think if we can just focus on that, let's work on ourselves. I've got enough to work on for me. I don't even want to think about working on anybody else. I got me work to do.
It's always a good podcast for me when I actually walk away from something. I always walk away from somebody in an interview, but at the same time too, some are more than others. So I'll tell you this, the one thing that the two things I took away from you was a renewed passion for service. I mean, that was why I became a cop. I loved it. I don't care who says what. I just loved being a servant. And the second thing it's success in business requires you being the best man you can be. And I know we can talk about women as well too, but we're men. That I did a video. How I started on social media was, back in 2015, we had a very tragic thing happen in one of the towns I worked at. And and a lot of people were thanking us, right? A cop got shot and killed. And everywhere we went for the next several weeks, people would, if you went to the gas station, you'd get, "Officer, thank you for your service." People liked the cops all of a sudden for a little bit. And it hit me. And I did this video. It was the first video I ever did for social media where I talked about what it really means when you thank a cop. And to me, it meant, when you thank me for my service as a cop, you're expecting I show up and you don't care about my problems that day. You don't care about my health. You don't care. You want the best officer to show up to fix your problems. And I thought to myself, well, as a police officer, it is my job to be in shape, to be mentally focused, to care about people, and because then I could serve them the greatest of my ability. You just reminded me of that now. There's no damn difference in owning a restaurant to network marketing to whatever. I can't serve others unless I have the best version of me there. So I'm walking away from this conversation with real men are by default successful in business because they're taking care of themselves as real men first. And that puts us in a position to serve others. That is probably... You just nailed some of the most important aspects for anybody to figure out their whys in business, right? Because most people what's your why? Oh, I want a vacation. I want time, freedom. I want this. No, I want to be the best man I can be, because within that, everything else comes along. This was fantastic. If people want to connect with you or follow you, support you, how can they wind up doing that? What's the best way?
That's it, at Joshua Denne on pretty much every social platform, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. I'm probably on Instagram most often. I do respond to people. Let me say this, because there's a lot of scam accounts. I will never ask you for money, ever. I'm not going to give you some tip.
Nope, 100%.
So if something hits you as a tip, that's not me, some duplicate of me, because I will never ask you for a nickel. So if that happens, because I see it all the time, and I unfortunately some people have been scammed with fake pictures of me, and so I want to make sure that's known. I have nothing to sell you. I have no courses. So
no, 100. It's been a couple of years, and you've done nothing but offer. You've never asked for anything from me. You've just done nothing but offer. So I think if somebody connects with a relationship with you, that's something that they need to be very, very appreciative of. I'm going to hunt you down, hopefully not another year, but we'll get you on another podcast again soon and have another conversation, because this was fantastic. It's renewed vision and clarity, service, and then, man, you just leveled up the responsibility of being a man. I mean, it's fantastic. The value is huge. Guys, thank you. I really appreciate this, and I'm glad that I finally got you on this. It's Joshua Denne, Denne, on Instagram, all one word, JOSHUA Huadenne. Follow his content. Pay attention. I mean, if you could just tell from this, it's genuine. There's not one damn hard sell about anything, and the entirety of this was about service and purpose. Fucking powerful stuff, guys. This is the Rants of Izzo conversations. Hope you guys are enjoying this. Don't forget to follow us at rantsofizzo.com or Spreely.com. You can check out the social media that's there. Listen to the other shows that's there. We are on live Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern on the Rants of Izzo show. We talk about everything. It's a stream of consciousness show. I have some great guests on there. We cover politics, trends, sometimes conspiracy theories, good fun stuff like that. And yeah, that's that. Share this if you love it, if you find value. We hope so. Guys, have a great damn day. Go out and help somebody. And if you can't help them, just don't hurt them. We'll see you guys in the next episode.
Much love.